Hey, it's Christine from Moonshine Safari and
Anthony from Moonshine Safari.
Woohoo!
Yeehaw!
All right, we are up to chapter 24 in Outlander, the first book. Last time we actually did an episode of Blood of My Blood, so there's going to be a little bit of discussion about that in here because some of the things that are happening back there impact here. And then also, as a reminder, we have spoilers for both the books and the shows. If you don't want to be spoiled, you shouldn't listen, but you do want to be spoiled, you should listen.
Get spoiled.
Get spoiled. So, Outlander, chapter 23, when it ended, they had gotten married and gotten back to the castle. They had to rescue Claire. She'd gotten her spanking. All of that stuff happened in the last chapter. And they are back at the castle now, kind of settling into daily life. Okay? So this is kind of like life at the castle to me in a lot of ways, but a lot of stuff happens. It's kind of a long chapter, so we might end up breaking it up into two, depending on how long this part goes. So they're back, and once they're back at the castle, they're having some feasts and stuff, and everybody's toasting them and saying congratulations on their nuptials and all of this. Of course, some people are not happy about their nuptials, and Claire actually finds herself sitting next to Gayla Duncan. Dun, dun, dun. I'm not good at that.
Oh, my Lord.
Okay, Gayla Duncan.
You got to do that from now on.
Cue serious music. How about that? Or like, I don't know.
No, do that again every time.
Dun, dun.
Anytime the villains come in.
Okay. So Galis is not sitting with her husband because, well, let's be real, pretty clear. She doesn't like her husband. She doesn't really want to be around her husband. Her husband is a useful idiot to her, so she's not sitting with him.
Her husband, well, yes. And he's not well anyway.
Right. He's going to be really, really super not well here pretty quick.
Soon.
So she's not sitting with him. She's sitting with Claire. And Claire noticed that the husband looks ill, going back to what you were just saying. Galis, not too worried. Just says, he's got some stomach issues. It's always going on. She's not too worried about it.
It's quite gassy.
Exactly. She does ask
I won't want to sit next to him either, to be honest with you.
No, well, I mean, stomach issues. I mean, I think everything smelled back then. We kind of talked about that before, right?
Yeah, but you got to know that sometimes it's like there's just the regular normal stink, and then there's that stank.
Extra special
and there's a stank that comes in.
So
everything stinks, but that's a stank. Yeah.
Galis is never a demure and conservative kind of person. She's asking racy questions about Jamie, talking about the size of different appendages, that kind of stuff. That's who she is. She said there's a lot of women.
She's a skank and a hoe. That's what she is. Her mom ought to be ashamed.
She said there's a lot of girls at the castle who are not real happy with Claire because she took Jamie off the open market, so to speak. And Claire's like, I really didn't want to get married. I didn't plan it. That part's true. But, Galis still notes that Claire looks like she's content in her new marriage. Aha. Satisfied. Correct. So during all this body talk, Jamie has gone out, but he comes back and he looks serious and he looks really unhappy. And he goes straight up to the front table to talk to seeming like Colum, but actually he turns and no, he's talking to Dougal. They're all very serious. And then you don't really know what happens. They shift to Jamie and Claire talking later after they're away from everybody. And basically you find out that Dougal's wife has died suddenly. It's interesting because now in Blood of My Blood, so back to the whole spoiler alert, in Blood of My Blood, Dougal actually marries one of the Grants from Clan Grant. So I don't really remember if that's how it plays out in Outlander the book, because some of the things are different from the Blood of My Blood to this book. But
it could be a different wife too, couldn't it? Or is it the same name?
The one, I think.
Oh, only the one. Okay.
And it's the name. It's the correct name.
Okay. So then it must be.
I just don't know. They didn't really say here if she was from Clan Grant, but she could be at this point. So I don't know that. But she definitely died. She took a sudden fever, supposedly. They were married for 24 years, but Jamie makes the comment that Dougal probably only spent like 3 years with her all told, because they had babies, they had daughters and stuff like that, but they didn't really live together. That's not the kind of marriage it was. It was arranged, and So the book doesn't really talk too much about the arrangement at this point. Blood of My Blood makes it clear that basically Dougal steps into the marriage with Mora because Ellen backed out of the marriage with Malcolm Grant. So they exchanged one Mackenzie for another Mackenzie, essentially. Dougal was obviously kind of a dog, which is clear in Blood of My Blood as well. Rough. So
wow.
Jamie makes it clear that even though his and Claire's marriage technically was arranged, it's real to him. And he also talks about his parents, and that was a real marriage. And that becomes kind of interesting. You hear a little bit more about how that marriage happened and stuff later. But, that actually, it's funny because Claire doesn't actually want to admit to him that she agrees with him that that's a real marriage. marriage because she's still feeling conflicted about Frank Who. So
Today,
right now, right this moment.
Right.
That's correct.
It's not ongoing.
Oh, Frank. So they are having some kissy face, and Alec, the master of horse, I don't remember what they really call him, but he's the guy that's in charge of all the horse stuff. He walks in, oops, and he's like, hey, Jamie, get moving. I need you to get to work. They make an arrangement to have some bomb chicka wow time in the hayloft later. So they're going to roll in the hay.
Roll in the hay. If you could tell me where that's from, put it in the comments.
I was going to say.
Don't say it, but if you know where that's from, put it in the comments.
As soon as they said they were going to meet in the hayloft, I'm like, roll in the hay.
Roll in the hay.
Oh,
come on now.
shoot.
You know what that's from. Put it in the comments below.
So they're having some fun. While they're having their fun in the hay, young Hamish shows up. So just as a reminder, Hamish is legally the son of Colum and Colum's wife, Letitia. Okay?
But technically.
But is he? But anyway, so that's another spoiler. But they talk about it later. Hamish is having some typical problems.
I got a Dougal in my throat.
Right, well, this is where Claire ends up proving herself, spoiler alert, about not always being adept at figuring out what's going on with other people. But anyway.
She doesn't have a lot of self-awareness.
Well, I'm just saying some people are really good at judging character, not necessarily Claire. She's not always good at that, just saying. So Hamish comes in, he's having some typical boy problems, and Jamie is sort of, in this case, he would almost be like an older brother or an uncle or something. So it's not the same as Hamish going to his father or anything like that. It's, he can talk to him about stuff. And he wanted to prove himself to his friends on getting on this really scary freaking horse. And Jamie's like, yeah, I don't think we're going to do that. Because the horse will probably kill you, and we're not going to do that. But they have a good talk, and Hamish actually makes the comment that he heard his dad had been a good writer before he couldn't ride anymore. So this is another thing you get to see in Blood of My Blood, because Colin was actually out. They were writing, and they were doing whatever when he got hurt the first time. But there's an underlying disease, obviously, that they don't necessarily understand at this. So then Hamish has questions for Jamie about being married. It's almost like a birds and the bees conversation. He wants to know if he likes having to sleep with a lady every night. Pretty funny, actually. It's very cute. You have a good insight into how Jamie actually deals with kids, because he's really good at making them feel like they're actually having a conversation with somebody instead of being talked down to. Like, they can talk to him about this stuff. Hamish asks Jamie, how do you know who you're supposed to marry? And Jamie actually says that his dad once said, you just know. And if you don't know that that's the one, it means it's not the one, basically. I don't know. But he said they do have a little bit of sex talk about how it happens because some of his little kid friends said, you do it like the horses do it. And Jamie's like, well, he's a little embarrassed because Claire, remember, is hearing this whole thing from the hayloft that she was already in. And so she's hearing this whole conversation. So Jamie has to kind of give him the birds and the bees. This is how you kind of do it. It's not real graphic, but he's trying to answer the questions that the kid has. It's pretty cute. At the end of the conversation he has with Hamish, basically he goes, look, I'm not going to let you take the scary horse, but I will get you a better horse than you had because you're getting old enough. And so it works out with Hamish. It works out really well, and he takes him to get his horse. Later on, when Claire and Jamie are talking, they smell something. So this is part similar to, they're back in their room, and this becomes a little bit similar to a scene in the show where they kind of smell something. They look around, and there is a bundle of herbs and stuff under the bed. Jamie flicks it out the window after Claire...
X-bag.
Yes, exactly.
X-bag.
After Claire pokes thumb with one of the thorns.
Supernatural friends know
and
that.
They said it's an ill wish.
Hex bag.
And Jamie's just like, whatever. So they throw it out, but, then you gotta wonder, okay, who's giving them the bad omens, so to speak, which we kind of know. But you watch the show, you know who did it.
There's witches among us.
There are witches. There is really one big one. So then they have some bomb chicka wow time. There's a lot of that at this point in their
That's
marriage.
2 shots, by the way, if you're not keep count.
And as Jamie is leaving the room, he sort of sings, which is interesting because she does say he doesn't have an ear for music, but later on you learn way more about Jamie and music and what does and doesn't work. So that's kind of just plot point that comes up later. And Claire goes out and she's puttering around with her herbs, and she realizes that she really kind of is enjoying herself. Like, she's happy and content in the castle. Frank who? Exactly, that's right. And she actually has that thought. And so then she's conflicted with herself, and then we have that. We're always having this inner conflict for Claire. So then after Jamie goes out, he decides to ride the scary horse because they're trying to break it. The name is, I think it's Donas. Problem is, can't say it with the accent they say. So it's like Donis or something like that. But he gets hurt. He hurts his ankle. They actually have to get him back up to the castle and help him because he can't really walk on his ankle. And as they're having some time just to enjoy each other, really, they're kind of looking out the windows and stuff, and he points to an area and he goes, that's the way, go to Lollybrow, which is where he's from. And I say that really badly, by the way. which is what his family home is. And so he wants to go there someday after the Duke of Sandringham comes, because don't forget, the Duke of Sandringham is supposed to be coming, but Claire also knows from her time in her present, 1945, however you want to say that they think that the Duke of Sandringham was like a benefactor for Black Jack Randall. So he's not somebody to be trusted. And she's conflicted because she wants Jamie to know that, but there's only so much she can really tell him at this. So they talk some more, and she kind of wants to tell him about the Duke of Sandringham, and she asks if he could possibly be Hamish's father, because that is actually one of the rumors that has gone around the castle, and that's one of the questions that Galus even asked her. And he's like, I freaking told you when we got together that I was a virgin, so I couldn't really be Hamish's father. Doesn't really work out. And he laughs, and he's like, no. He said the only interaction he ever had, even when he was younger, with Letitia was when she got mad at him for something he did in the castle. So there's not anything like that between those two. And she said, by the way, Colin would have killed him if he had ever gone there with Letitia. So no, he's not Hamish's father. But he also tells her, and this is where you start to see Jamie's insight into people, watch out for Galus. He's like, she's a troublemaker. They say she's a witch. He's not as superstitious about some of this stuff as some people, but he's like, she's trouble. He goes, she's just, yeah, he doesn't like her at all. Okay. He actually just gets people way better than she does. And so as they are going back up to the castle, there's this like loud noise, there's this barking. They come across priest, Father Bain, that's the priest in the village, and he's running from, I don't mean to laugh, that sounds terrible, he's running from some dogs, and the wild dogs, these dogs kind of are causing trouble. Jamie's even said, he's told Colin, we got to get rid of these dogs because they're causing trouble with horses. But they chase Father Bain, and they kind of jump in and they kind of bite his leg. So Jamie gets them all off of the priest, and the priest is okay, but he's clearly been bitten in the legs. It's really important for later. That's why I'm making a big deal about this. Claire tells the priest, look, if you go to my surgery, I'll clean your wound and I'll make sure everything's good and you're not going to, get an infection from this. And they don't call it that, but whatever. He goes, I wouldn't, bare my privates to you. I don't care, whatever. He basically calling her immoral, and she's like, all right, dude, whatever. But, if you don't get that cleaned up, it's going to fester. It's really important that she says this because it comes up later. Okay.
Oh,
so
fester.
It's going to fester. Uh-oh, uncle. Okay. And then later on, she sees Alec, and he comes in with some rheumatism, and she tells him, look, I can give you a massage, and that's what I'm going to do, and then some whiskey. And he appreciates the fact that she actually prescribes whiskey. And he's like, I think you're going to make a really good doctor.
Right.
But he starts to talk to her a little bit about Ellen. And he says that she reminds him of Ellen, Jamie's mother, and says Ellen was just really sassy. And so you kind of get some insights into Ellen here from Alec, who knew her when she was at the castle before. So then this is where it kind of, there's a little bit of a conflict between what the author's written in the books and the Blood of My Blood shows. So Malcolm did not die back in the day like he did, spoiler alert, for Blood of My Blood, okay? Ellen told him where to go. They had him plan to meet in the rose garden. That's like the White House, right? They had a plan.
Sure.
They had a plan to meet at the garden, and she basically met with him just to kind of tell him off and go, look, dude, not interested, not going to go, not going to happen. And her father did favor her. He did not ever make her get married. She was considered almost a spinster at age 22 at this point. She told him where to go, and they never exactly knew what she said to him, but he was offended enough to go, I'm done. I don't want to see her anymore. That's it. So it's kind of funny, actually. But after she had gone to meet him, she disappeared. This kind of happens in Blood of My Blood, but it happens differently. So she's supposed to go meet Malcolm, which she did, and she told him off, which we know now. But then she just kind of falls off the face of the earth. They don't know what happened to her. Dougal believes that Malcolm has kidnapped her and goes riding after them to get her back. And they have a giant fight. Everybody's fighting. I mean, it could come to somebody actually killing somebody until somebody who's called, quote, a tax man with Clan Grant, I should say, says, why are you guys fighting? She's not here. We don't have her. And everybody kind of goes, oh, she's not here. So this part of it kind of does go along with Blood of My Blood. That does happen in the books, but it's interesting because now we know, at least according to Blood of My Blood, that tax man that said she's not here is Henry Beecham, Claire's father.
What?
Which is kind of quirky and weird.
Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah. Colum does kind of try to stop Dougal because Colum is always thinker, but he also is okay with the fact that potentially Malcolm has stolen Ellen away because he thinks, well, now you're going to have to pay reparations. I'm going to marry her off to you. I don't even have to pay a dowry. This is going to work out great for me. And of course, that's not what happened anyway. It doesn't really matter. So the question is, where was Ellen? Well, Alex says for a while they didn't know. They were looking. And then a kitchen maid says she had seen a handsome handsome man with black hair, looked like a Silky, which we find out is a seal. And you hear a little bit about Silky Scottish lore and all this stuff. But there's this handsome, dark-haired man in the kitchens, and he was around right before Ellen went missing, so they don't know. Apparently, we find out that it was Brian, of course, Brian Fraser. Ellen had met him at the gathering, and it was essentially love at first sight. So she goes and she meets Malcolm. She tells Malcolm, "See ya, I'm not going to see you anymore." And then she runs off with Brian, run off and keep quiet for a while, basically eloping. Essentially, they got to run away because they know neither side, the Fraser side and the Mackenzie side, do not want them getting married. Okay, so they run. They get found eventually, and Colum still won't give his blessing. There is a giant fight, and it looks like it's actually come to blows. Dougal, it sounds like, was about to kill Brian, and then Dougal ends up with a giant scar across his chest, and that came from Ellen. Ellen got him. I guess that's how it ended, and they had to give their blessing, and essentially they portioned off that piece of land, which became Lollybroch for them, because they didn't want them to be tenant farmers essentially on this land, because they're almost like Scottish aristocracy at this point, so they don't want them doing that. So they portioned off Lollybroch, and it's pretty funny, but yeah, Ellen cut Dougal.
Way to go.
Let's see.